Emily was always going to conferences or having work trips that just seemed a bit too frequent. But I was too blinded by love and trust to question it much at first. Then this intern girl, Lily, came up to me one day looking all nervous and apologetic. "Daniel, I'm so sorry, but I overheard something I think you should know." She proceeded to tell me how she'd caught my boss Henry and some other guys talking about entertaining everyone on an upcoming business trip. Lily even showed me photos, disturbing photos of Henry kissing and hugging another woman intimately. My heart just sank when I realized that mystery woman was Emily, my own wife. The pieces started falling into place: the constant conferences, the shady comments from Henry, Emily's unusual behavior lately. I felt like such a fool for not connecting the dots sooner. At first, I was in denial, making up excuses in my head. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding. Emily would never cheat on me, right? But deep down, I knew the truth was staring me right in the face. My wife, the woman I loved and trusted with all my heart, had been cheating on me. With my own boss, no less. I was absolutely gutted. After that initial wave of shock and hurt came the anger. How could she do this to our marriage? I started imagining all the sordid details: Emily being intimate with other men, betraying my trust over and over again. The fury and disgust just boiled inside me. I knew I had to take action, get to the bottom of this whole sordid mess. That's when I decided to hire some private investigators to tail Emily and dig up evidence of her infidelity. I found this company called Quiet Detectives online, pretty much the most discreet pie firm you can get. I set up meetings with them and a few other agencies, just to cover all my bases. The next step was finding a bulldog lawyer who could protect my interests. I immediately thought of the firm Davis, Thompson and Clarkson. They had a reputation for being real pit bulls in court. I made an appointment to meet with Ethan Thompson himself to discuss potentially representing me. In the meantime, I lied to Emily about having a stomach bug and checked into a guest house, just to get some space and figure out my next moves. I was a wreck emotionally, but I was also determined to gather evidence and take decisive legal action. No way was I going to let Emily get away with this betrayal and keep my $70 million trust fund for herself. This was war. So there I was, holed up in this dingy guest house, just waiting for the other shoe to drop. A few days later, I got a call from the pie I hired at Quiet Detectives, this guy named Norm. "Mr. Davis, I've got some disturbing information for you," he said in this grim tone. Norm proceeded to tell me that his team had been tailing Emily, Henry, and a few others on their little business trip. Turns out it was no conference at all. They had all checked into some swanky hotel outside Melbourne and were basically having one giant orgy. Can you believe the nerve of these people? According to Norm, the investigators caught Emily in all sorts of compromising positions with Henry, my scumbag lawyer Peter Robertson, and even some random other dudes I didn't recognize. The photos and videos they got were pretty much hardcore porn. I felt sick to my stomach just hearing the details. But it got even worse. Norm said they also picked up conversations strongly implying that this whole affair was part of some twisted plot to get me out of the picture permanently. That's right, my own wife and the people I trusted most were seemingly conspiring to kill me, and all to get their grubby hands on my $70 million inheritance. I was just floored. I'll be honest, in that moment, I broke down completely. I'm talking full-on ugly, crying like a baby. How could Emily, the love of my life, betray me like this? And to actually want me dead for money? It was my worst nightmare coming true. I felt so alone, so utterly devastated. I'd never experienced a pain quite like that before. The next few days were just a blur. I was an emotional wreck, swinging between unbridled rage at Emily's deception and utter despair at the life I thought I had crumbling around me. Thankfully, I had my first meeting with Ethan Thompson coming up to deal with the legal side of this nightmare. Ethan was exactly what I needed, a total shark of a lawyer who didn't mince words. Based on the evidence, we've got Emily dead to rights for adultery, breach of contract, and quite possibly conspiracy to commit murder, he said bluntly. I'll bury that lying snake along with everyone else involved. But then Ethan's wife Sarah pulled me aside after the meeting. She had been through a similar betrayal herself and could empathize with the hurt I was going through. Sarah gave me a warm hug and told me, "We're here for you, Daniel. You have a real friend in Ethan, and we'll do everything possible to protect you and your interests." I'll never forget that moment of human kindness amidst all the darkness and pain. Sarah's compassion was like a lifeline, reminding me that I wasn't alone in this fight. With the Thompsons by my side, I knew I could get through anything Emily and her co-conspirators threw at me. It was time to go scorched earth on these backstabbers. After that initial meeting with Ethan and Sarah, I was a total wreck, just consumed by paranoia and fear. I mean, the people closest to me were apparently plotting to freaking murder me for money. So I started changing lodgings every single night, bouncing between different hotels and motels. I was terrified Emily or one of her goons would track me down. Meanwhile, Ethan was busy preparing the nuclear option. He drew up divorce papers citing Emily's adultery and breach of our prenup, along with restraining orders to keep that snake and her conspirators away from me. Ethan warned me to steer clear of the office and avoid any contact with Emily until we dropped the bomb. Those next few weeks were just agonizing, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was a total mess, barely sleeping or eating. The only bright spot was Lily, that intern who first clued me into Emily's cheating ways. We started grabbing drinks and dinners together, and I found myself really opening up to her about the nightmare I was going through. Lily was such a caring, compassionate person. She just listened patiently as I vented about Emily's betrayal, offering hugs and words of encouragement. I could tell she had developed feelings for me, but I was still too raw from Emily's deception to really reciprocate at first. Still, her kindness and loyalty during that dark time meant the world. One weekend, Lily suggested we get out of the city and go penguin watching down near Phillip Island to take my mind off things. Ethan and his wife Mel tagged along too, wanting to get me out of my hotel room hell for a bit. I remember watching those cute little penguins waddling along the beach, finally feeling at peace for a little while. Lily reached over and took my hand, giving me a warm smile. In that moment, I felt a spark of something more than friendship. After the penguin trip, Lily confessed she had romantic feelings for me over drinks one night. I was still so guarded from Emily's betrayal, but I told Lily I felt a connection too amidst the darkness I was going through. She said she'd stick by me no matter what, which just melted my heart. For the first time in forever, I felt like I could truly trust someone again. But then the other bombshell dropped. Norm called to update me on his surveillance findings. Apparently, Emily's whole scheme wasn't just about stealing my money. No, that witch was plotting to have me killed after she got pregnant with my child and heir. Can you believe the audacity? She was going to eliminate me once my spawn was born so she could take everything. I just broke down sobbing when I heard that. Lily held me tight, letting me get all the hurt and rage out. How could the woman I loved, the soon-to-be mother of my child, want me dead in such a cold, calculated way? It was absolutely shattering. In that moment, I felt like Emily had driven a knife straight through my heart. As much as it gutted me, learning about Emily's murderous plot also lit a fire under my ass. There was no more tiptoeing around or being Mr. Nice Guy. If Emily wanted a war, I was going to hit her with every weapon in the legal arsenal until she had nothing left. I was done being a victim. It was time to go scorched earth on that deceitful snake and everyone involved in her twisted schemes. They were going to pay dearly for their betrayal. So, with Emily's deranged murder plot out in the open, Ethan and I went full scorched earth mode. The dude had his team working around the clock to gather even more evidence and build an airtight case against that snake and her co-conspirators. We were going to bury them all in court. Meanwhile, I started acting like everything was normal at the office, playing dumb so Emily and the others wouldn't get spooked. But on the inside, I was just seething with rage every time I saw their smug, lying faces. I had to resist the urge to just cold cock Henry or that weasel lawyer Peter right then and there. Finally, on the big day, Ethan's plan was a go. I told Emily I had a migraine and needed to leave work early. Little did she know, I was being whisked away by Ethan's team to a private airfield to get the hell out of Dodge. We couldn't risk Emily or the others catching wind and trying to stop me. I'll never forget the look of pure terror on Emily's face when Norm's guys started arresting her and the other conspirators at the office. Apparently, it was a total scene. Lawyers slapping people in cuffs, cops swarming in, just mass chaos. Emily was sobbing and screaming, finally realizing her twisted schemes were crumbling around her. Music to my ears, honestly. Meanwhile, I was jetting off to Cairns with Lily by my side. We stayed at this gorgeous little bed and breakfast run by the sweetest elderly gay couple you'd ever meet. Their place was tucked away in the rainforest, like our own private paradise away from the insanity back in Melbourne. Few days in Cairns were blissful. Like the weight of the world had finally been lifted off my shoulders. Lily and I would wake up together, have these amazing home-cooked breakfasts, then spend the day exploring rainforest trails or lounging by the pool sipping cocktails. At night, we'd sip wine under the stars and just talk for hours about anything and everything. I'll never forget this one morning. I was sitting on the patio reading when Lily came up behind me and started planting little kisses on my neck. She whispered, "You're finally free, Daniel," as she nibbled my ear. In that moment, all the hurt and anger from Emily's betrayal just melted away. I pulled Lily into a deep, passionate kiss, realizing this amazing woman was the true love of my life. A few days into our little tropical paradise, I got a text from Ethan, "It's done. You're a free man now." I could finally breathe that huge sigh of relief. Emily, Henry, that scumbag lawyer, and all their accomplices were behind bars facing criminal conspiracy charges. The companies they worked for were getting slammed with lawsuits too. Ethan said Emily had a full-blown psychotic break when she was arrested and had to be sedated. Part of me felt a twinge of sadness for her, but honestly, she brought it all on herself with her sickening betrayal. With the weight finally off my shoulders, Lily and I were able to just relax and be present with each other those next couple of weeks. We did all the classic romantic couple stuff, couples massages, sunset cruises, making love on the beach under the stars. I'll spare you the X-rated details, but let's just say we definitely took full advantage of the privacy. Ethan and Mel even flew up to join us for part of the stay with their daughter Colleen. It was so great having my little legal pit bull and his family there to celebrate my newfound freedom with Lily. We'd spend days just lounging by the pool, sipping cocktails and reminiscing about how we took down the whole corrupt bunch. Ethan loved retelling the part where Emily got hauled off in cuffs, that sick grin spreading across his face. Dude really is a legal assassin, but I loved him for it. Those weeks in Cairns were exactly what I needed to start healing from the whole Emily nightmare. Having Lily's love and support was like a salve for my wounded soul. For so long, I thought I'd never be able to trust or love again after Emily's sickening betrayal. But this wonderful woman showed me that true, unconditional love still exists in this world. With Lily by my side, I felt reborn and ready to start building a new life, one filled with honesty, loyalty, and real happiness this time around. After those blissful weeks in Cairns, Lily and I just couldn't get enough of the travel bug. We decided to keep the adventure going and did this whirlwind tour around Australia, hitting up places like Brisbane, Sydney, the Whitsunday Islands. Wherever we went, it was like we were in our own little love bubble, tuning out the rest of the world. Don't get me wrong, we'd still get updates from Ethan on all the legal madness going down with Emily and her crooked crew. That pit bull was just racking up win after win in court, securing restraining orders and massive financial settlements for me from the companies involved in the conspiracy. Ethan made sure Emily and her goons didn't get a single cent of my inheritance. Meanwhile, Lily and I were basically living it up like newlyweds, despite not actually being married yet. We'd do all the cheesy romantic stuff, couples massages, candlelit dinners on the beach, that kind of thing. And the intimacy between us, oh man, I'll just say we definitely took advantage of all those fancy hotel rooms, if you catch my drift. But as amazing as the travel romance was, Lily and I both knew we wanted to settle down and start building a real life together. We'd have these long talks about our hopes and dreams, getting married, having kids, putting down roots. I'll never forget this one night under the Sydney Opera House when Lily just blurted out, "I want to have your babies, Daniel." I damn near fell off the bench. I was so shocked, not and overjoyed. From there, it was just a matter of making it official. A few weeks after we got back to Melbourne, I surprised Lily with this massively extravagant proposal, a private rooftop terrace decked out in rose petals, fairy lights, the whole 9 yards. When I got down on one knee with that huge diamond ring, she just burst into happy tears. Seeing the pure joy on her face as she said, "Yes," was honestly one of the greatest moments of my life. We didn't waste any time after that, let me tell you. Lily started researching fertility treatments and pretty much dragged me to the doctor's office to get checked out and make sure we were good to go baby-wise. Sure enough, a few months later, we got that positive pregnancy test. You've never seen two people more elated. In the midst of all that, Ethan was just racking up legal win after win against Emily and her whole corrupt cabal. That witch ended up getting slapped with a 35-year prison sentence for her deranged schemes. No chance for parole, thank God. The judge was utterly disgusted by her murderous plots against me and made an example out of her. Music to my ears, honestly. Ethan also secured me this monster divorce settlement that pretty much cleaned out Emily's life savings and assets. He made sure to push for the maximum amount based on her egregious violations of our prenup. I tried not to take too much pleasure in stripping Emily of everything, but I'll admit, it felt pretty damn good to see her get her ultimate punishment. With Emily out of the picture for good and all her co-conspirators in ruins, Lily and I were finally free to start our new life together. We decided to go big too, found this insane penthouse loft right in the heart of Melbourne's CBD. I'm talking floor-to-ceiling windows, a rooftop pool, the whole 9 yards. It was the perfect place to begin our family. Those first few months in the penthouse were just pure bliss. Lily and I spent our days nesting and getting the place decked out for the baby's arrival. We'd take long walks around the city at night, hand in hand, dreaming about the future. I'd come home from work and just rub Lily's growing baby bump, feeling that amazing bond between the three of us. Then the big day finally came. Little Jacob Daniel entered the world, healthy and howling his tiny lungs out. Holding my son in my arms for the first time, seeing the look of pure love and joy on Lily's face, it was honestly the most profound moment of my life. All the darkness and pain from Emily's betrayal just melted away in an instant. This was the fresh start I had dreamed of. Over the next couple of years, Lily and I were just living that picturesque family bliss. We'd stroll around the city park, Jacob riding on my shoulders. Weekends were for pancake breakfasts and movie nights cuddled up on the couch. And the amount of love in that penthouse, my God, it was everything I'd been desperately searching for after Emily so callously ripped my world apart. These days, Lily and I are talking about trying for baby number 2 soon. We've got this amazing little family unit, a gorgeous home, thriving careers. What more could a guy want? Whenever I look over at my wife and son, I just feel so damn grateful to have fought through the darkness and betrayal to find the light again. This, right here, is what true love and loyalty looks like. And after that Emily saga, I'll never take it for granted again. For the longest time, I was just filled with so much hatred and disgust towards Emily. The way she betrayed me, the sickening depths she stooped to with her murderous schemes, it was almost impossible for me to feel anything but contempt. But then I got that call from the prison about a year after she got locked up. Turns out, Emily had suffered this total psychotic break behind bars and was in really bad shape mentally and physically. So against my better judgment, I went to go see her. I figured she at least deserved to have someone there for the birth of her child, twisted as that sounds. But when I arrived at the prison hospital wing, the sight of Emily just shook me to my core, man. She was curled up on the bed, rocking back and forth, mumbling all these crazy things to her pregnant belly. Without warning, Emily suddenly ripped off her hospital gown and started yelling at her stomach, saying stuff like, "This baby isn't yours, it's not Thomas's. I gave this body away when it didn't belong to me." She was sobbing hysterically, clawing at her skin like she wanted to tear it off. It was honestly one of the most disturbing, haunting things I've ever witnessed. The prison doctors had to sedate Emily and strap her down. As they were carrying her out, she turned to me with this sad, hollow look in her eyes and just whispered, "It was supposed to be yours, Thomas." It was supposed to be. Part of me wanted to feel sympathy in that moment, seeing someone I once loved become so utterly unraveled. But the anger and hurt from her betrayal was still too fresh. I just watched in stunned silence as they took her away. A week later, I got another call from the prison. Emily had given birth to a baby girl. Healthy, despite her mom's total mental break and the circumstances around her conception. The doctors wanted to know if I'd be open to taking a paternity test, since Emily's state made it unclear who the father was. I figured what the hell, I'd get it over with. Well, turns out that little bundle of joy wasn't my flesh and blood after all. The test showed the dad was actually this scumbag named Richard that Emily had been messing around with at her job. Yet another sick twist in the saga of her betrayal. I didn't know whether to feel relieved that I wasn't tied to Emily forever through this kid, or just endlessly disgusted by her behavior. Regardless, the doctors said Emily didn't want to have any part in raising her daughter. Can't say I blame her, all things considered. She had made it clear she just wanted to cut ties, put the baby up for adoption so she could have a fresh start with a stable family. As messed up as Emily's choices were, I had to respect her putting the kids' well-being first for once. That's when Lily and I started talking about the idea of adopting Emily's daughter ourselves. I know, it sounds crazy given everything that went down with her mom. But Lily has such a pure, forgiving heart. She didn't want this innocent child to grow up bouncing around the foster system with no family just because her mom was a sociopath. So after lots of long discussions, Dot and me getting over the initial weirdness of adopting the spawn of my cheating ex-wife, we decided to go for it. We'd raise this little girl as our own, give her the loving home and family she deserved right from the start. Ethan helped make sure the adoption went through smoothly and handle all the legalities. Of course, Emily's baby daddy Richard had to go and muck things up because he's a total sleazeball. As soon as he heard about the adoption, he tried to swoop in and demand custody and child support from me. Like I was just going to let this dirtbag who stuck his penis in my wife be involved in the kid's life? Hell no. Ethan, that pit bull, went nuclear on Richard from day one. Dude hit him with a paternity lawsuit so we could establish him as the dad and go after him for child support instead. Richard tried to weasel his way out of it at first, but Ethan just overwhelmed him with so much legal paperwork and court dates that eventually he had no choice but to pay up. I'll never forget the look on Richard's smug face when he had to start cutting those monthly child support checks. Ethan made sure to hit that asshole with the maximum payments too, enough to make it really sting. That's what you get for messing with my family, you prick. In the end, we gave the little girl the name Ava Emily Davis, keeping her mom's name as her middle despite everything, since she'd be part of our family now. And from the moment we brought baby Ava home, she was just folded into the Davis family unit like she was always meant to be there. Lily and I showered her with all the love and affection any parent could give. We'd cuddle up on the couch watching Disney movies, go to the park and playground every weekend, just soak up all those precious baby moments. When Jacob was born a couple years later, Ava just instantly loved having a little brother to look after. She'd push his stroller around the neighborhood, help feed him and read him stories at night. Such a caring, nurturing bond between those two from day one. As Ava grew older, I started realizing just how much of Emily's personality and spirit had carried into her. She had that same radiant smile, those expressive eyes that could melt your heart. But there was also this fiery determination, this stubbornness that was so quintessentially Emily. I'd tease Lily that we were getting a glimpse of the old Emily before her dark turn. Of course, we were always open and honest with Ava about her origins as she got older. We didn't want to lie or hide anything from her. She knew her biological mom was Emily and that she had made some terrible choices, but also that we were her real parents who loved her unconditionally. I was honestly dreading the day when Ava might want to meet Emily and that scumbag Richard. But Lily insisted we couldn't deprive her of that sense of closure if she needed it. Sure enough, when Ava turned 18, she started asking more pointed questions about meeting her biological parents. As hard as it was, we agreed to make it happen and arrange a supervised visit with each of them separately. Let's just say, it did not go well with Richard, that douchebag. Ava had this whole idealized notion of her father in her head. But the moment Richard opened his mouth, that image shattered into a million pieces. He immediately started mouthing off with all this misogynistic garbage, insulting Ava's looks and life choices. When I stepped in to defend her, Richard lost it and shoved me against the wall. Yeah, That piece of crap ended up getting thrown in jail again that night after I laid him out. I felt just awful seeing Ava so crushed and betrayed after that awful encounter with Richard. She had been clinging to this fantasy of him being a good guy, a caring father figure in her life. To have that dream crushed so brutally, it damn near broke my heart. All I could do was hold Ava close and remind her that her real family loved her unconditionally. As for Emily, well, that reunion was a total mind *CK, I'll tell you that. They had Ava meet her in this special room at the prison, just in case things got heated. I'll never forget the look of pure anguish on Emily's face when she first saw our little girl, this stunning young woman she had given up so long ago. For a few minutes, it was just dead silence. Emily and Ava just staring at each other, taking in all the similarities yet differences. You could cut the tension with a knife. Then, out of nowhere, Emily just broke down into body-shaking sobs. She crawled across the floor towards Ava, pulling her into this tight embrace, whispering, "I'm so sorry," over and over again. I'll give Ava credit, she handled that whole raw, emotional scene with such poise and compassion. She just stroked Emily's hair, trying to soothe her, saying, "It's okay, I'm here now." Watching them together, I realized for the first time just how much pain and regret Emily must have been carrying all those years. From there, Ava started visiting Emily at the prison every few months. She said she needed to understand her biological mom, to humanize her in a way. I could respect that. As for me, well, let's just say Emily and I are never going to be buddy-buddy. Too much water under the bridge there. But I will say this, seeing how far Emily had come in taking responsibility, feeling remorse over her actions, it helped me get to a place of forgiveness to a certain extent. Don't get me wrong, she's still a deeply flawed person who made unforgivable choices that I'll never excuse. But I realized holding on to that hatred and rage towards her was only poisoning me in the end. Lily was right, we had built this beautiful new life, and Emily didn't deserve to keep taking up space in my head rent-free. These days, Emily is still locked up and likely will be for life given her crimes. But from what I've heard through Ava's visits, she's made peace with herself and is determined to keep bettering herself in whatever way she can. The deranged, selfish monster who tried to murder me for money is long gone. And I'm okay with letting that past die, as long as the woman I knew remains buried for good. As for me and my family, we just keep chugging along, spreading more love and joy with each passing year. Ava is all grown up now, pursuing her dream career as a child psychologist. She's got this amazing husband and a beautiful little baby girl of her own who I'm obsessively doting on as a grandpa. My relationship with Lily is still that rock-solid partnership we built from the ashes of betrayal. We fought through the worst life could throw at us and came out stronger because of it. Do I still get triggered or have little PTSD moments from my experience with Emily's betrayal? Of course, something that traumatic leaves its mark no matter what. But I also realize how goddamn lucky I am to have survived being cheated on and almost killed by the person I loved most, yet still found the courage to open my heart again to someone as amazing as Lily. This life, this family we created, it's the greatest screw you to Emily and her demons that I could ever ask for. So if you're going through some crazy betrayal or hurt yourself, just know that you can and will find light on the other side if you don't give up. It won't be easy, and there will be plenty of backslides and hard nights. But as long as you stay true to yourself and have real ones in your corner like I did with Lily and Ethan, you'll make it through. You'll be reborn and get the chance to build something even better from the wreckage. Just don't hold on to that anger and hatred, man. It'll eat you up inside until you're hollow, trust me. Find a way to forgive, even if you can't forget. Because at the end of the day, the greatest revenge is allowing yourself to be truly happy again. With real, loyal people surrounding you, there's no limit to the incredible life you can build. So keep moving forward, one step at a time. Your redemption story is